This just in. Equinox suspended some of the best cards and some of the best decks. But will it be enough? Let's find out. Hey, what up? Equinox has released a new season patch for the set releasing in just a few weeks, so let's go over the article and talk about the changes. The Tumult events have just ended and results will be revealed next Thursday. As we approach the end of the season and that's not right. Reveal season for the next set, it's also time to unveil the contents of the new patch. We know how highly anticipated this patch is, and as always, we're taking the opportunity to share our observations with you on the current state of the metagame. Very exciting. If any of you have been playing Altered regularly, you might have noticed that Sigismar and Afanis are some of the most popular decks, and it looks like they addressed that right off the bat here. So next header, Age of Sigismar. While it's undeniable that Sigismar in particular has held a prominent place at the heart of the metagame in recent months, closely followed by Afanis, yep, they haven't prevented many other decks from existing and performing across the hundreds of competitions held around the world, and of course on Board Game Arena. As you'll see with the Tumult results, every faction has had its moment in the spotlight, each claiming its fair share of victories, with the exception of our friends from Axiom, who've struggled more than we would have liked. I read this as Axiom not getting a single win, or maybe just a handful of wins in the Tumult Championship, and this kind of lines up with what you see in websites like 39 Cards, for example, so I have it pulled up here. You can just see the representation of the Axiom heroes. It just shows of recent events how many of these heroes are being played. You can see 40, so 39 plus this one here, 180, 16. These numbers are quite low compared to some of the other factions. So even looking at Lyra, you can see Finn gets more representation than almost all of these combined. Muna, Tasia is well played, Kojo is well played, Sigismar, of course, is the most, followed by Afanis. So that lines up exactly with expectations. Effects of the latest patch. With the Errata to Ozma and the last mid-season patch, we were glad to offer a solution for a card that was suspended, making it playable once again. However, at the same time, we also inadvertently gave Sigismar new tools, even though he already had plenty. So one of the best cards in the Sigismar deck was only gone temporarily and then just slightly changed. The Errata to Haven Bravos Bastion, Axiom, so the faction-shifted version, provided some tools to Subosh and Traced, and the card now seems to have found a welcome place in certain decks without becoming an automatic choice, a balance with which we are satisfied. However, the card's return unfortunately wasn't enough to bring Axiom back to the top of the metagame. We're keeping this in mind as we wait to see the Whispers from the Maze metagame take shape. So they're just saying no more changes to Axiom or Axiom cards until Whispers from the Maze. If you're unaware, there are only 2 sets of this game available, and as new sets come out and cards get printed, I do expect metas to shift and decks to become more powerful or weaker over time. That's just the nature of card games, and with how young this game is, I'm excited to see what changes. Moving on to balance and accessibility, a demanding but essential duo. Maintaining Altered's competitive format is a delicate task, a careful balance between strategic equilibrium and accessibility for the widest audience. Each suspension or errata directly impacts players' ability to engage with the format. One of our priorities is to make the first steps into competition as smooth as possible, ensuring that changes don't become too numerous or overly complex to avoid discouraging newcomers. This is pretty important. You don't want to make too many changes to your cards, especially in a physical format. While some adjustments may seem minor to our veteran players, they can be disorienting for those just discovering competitive play. We're constantly seeking the compromise that best serves the game's overall health. This approach also aims to bring greater stability. Essential for allowing players to invest in the game, in the long term suspending several unique cards might seem like a simple fix to rebalance the format, but it's a lever we use with caution. Due to their rarity and visibility, these cards have a significant impact on players' experiences, and altering them, can affect clarity and trust in the game. I think this is a totally valid point. It's really important for a physical card game like this, that when a new player is opening sealed product, that the cards in the packs are cards that they can play with, or cards that do what they say they're going to do. A concern I've had with Altered is how many changes have already happened, but I'm hoping they just get better over time with that. We're not ruling out this option, but we're reserving it for cases where no other satisfying solution seems possible. For now, we are favoring more measured adjustments that offer better compromises in terms of accessibility. We also pay close attention to format stability, which is essential for a positive gameplay experience. A competitive environment that changes too often or too abruptly can become difficult to follow and discouraging for highly committed players. Many of you spend hours mastering decks, fine-tuning strategies, and this forms the beating heart of our community. I'm certainly no stranger to mastering decks. I mean, the only one I really play is Lindaway. By preserving stability, we allow players to invest over time and retain confidence in the long-term value of their choices, all while ensuring the game remains welcoming and engaging for new players. That's why our suspension and errata decisions aim to be as targeted as possible. We favor surgical actions that effectively address imbalances while affecting as few cards as possible, especially unique cards, whose errata are harder to follow and can raise doubts about their lasting value. It is with this mindset that we've designed the adjustments presented in this patch. Always love to see a lot of communication like this from a game designer or the developers of the games themselves. This really helps the community learn that they care about the game. So let's move on to the rule change. Before, if a player's expedition would move to the same region as the player's other expedition, or move to a region further from their starting region than the player's other expedition, the in-game procedure begins. This is just talking about how there's always a check to see when the game is ending, and let me read the next one so you can understand what I'm talking about. So after, the timing to check if a player wins due to the expedition's progression, or if tiebreakers should start, has changed. Instead of being checked continuously, it is now only checked at the end of night, during a new daily effect called Check Victory. During Check Victory, before starting a new day, check if at least one player's hero expedition and companion expedition have met or crossed each other. So this is saying, rather than ending the game immediately when your companion and your hero meet in the expeditions, you now have to wait until the end of that day to check victory. We've received a lot of feedback about how frustrating it can be to play against Small Step, Giant Leap, and Grand Endeavor. These cards could often lead to a win without giving the opponent meaningful opportunities to respond, creating play patterns that are in some cases impossible to interact with, something that goes against the spirit of Altered. 100% agree. You'll often see a lot of people complain or meme on the Small Step Giant Leap about how it immediately ends the game, there's no interaction. Oftentimes in Altered, players will take turns trading 1-for-1. I'll trade a hero side for a companion side. If you're ever tied and you're one step away, your hero and companion, and your faction has access to Small Step Giant Leap, if you just play that spell and you're the first player, your opponent has no opportunity to respond, the game would immediately end, and that's not really fun for either side. That's one of the reasons why in my previous videos I haven't been playing Small Step Giant Leap in my Lindaway decks. I don't find that to be particularly engaging, and as they say here, something that goes against the spirit of Altered. I'm really excited about this change. I think that was a really interesting way to nerf the Small Step Giant Leap strategy, or Grand Endeavor strategy. This rule change doesn't modify the aforementioned cards, but gives you an opportunity to react when your opponent uses one of them. It also prevents weird scenarios where the winner of a game is decided by the first player token, allowing one player to play their Small Step Giant Leap before the other player. Yeah, exactly what I was just talking about. Now moving on to some of the juicy news. The Ordis rare Baba Yaga faction shifted from Yzmir has been suspended, and let's read why. A large part of Sigismar's strength comes from how easily he can play numerous low-cost, high-impact cards while still effortlessly drawing new resources. And that's something we talked about earlier with Ozma, giving you access to draw cards, and now Resupply, which is still a cheap character you can play, so this totally makes sense so far. Following the errata to Ozma, whoops, I should have kept reading, we confirmed that targeting Ordis card advantage was the right approach, and we're continuing in that direction with this suspension. We hope this change will push Ordis players to slightly raise their mana curve and explore new deck building constraints. Asking players to slightly raise their mana curve is an ambitious goal. We currently have several promising options for an errata to this card, but rather than choosing one right now, we prefer to first observe how the upcoming metagame evolves and then reintroduce the card in the best possible way. So they're just saying, after Whispers from the Maze comes out and the metagame shakes out, they'll reevaluate this. So this will be suspended until further notice. On to the next suspension, Helping Hand. So Helping Hand, a rare faction shifted from Bravos into Yzmir here, has been suspended. Let's figure out why. The Yzmir version of Helping Hand presents several issues that are pushing us to take action. A win rate far too high when paired with the Faunus. An obvious inclusion during deck building means a synergy with a Faunus that's too powerful for the current metagame and easily replayed and abused through some of the best unique cards currently available in Yzmir. In a few of my last videos, I've mentioned some of these unique cards. For instance, Spindle Harvesters is really powerful with Helping Hand, and I've seen cases where those Spindle Harvesters sell for hundreds of euros just because of the synergy with the Faunus and Helping Hand. It is incredibly powerful, and I think this makes a ton of sense. One of the most common and extremely powerful lines that a Faunus takes right now is playing the Kadigiran Mage-Dancer and a Helping Hand. And some reasons why this is really powerful is the Mage-Dancer only costs 2 mana to play from hand and 1 from reserve, and the Helping Hand is just the inverse, 1 from hand, 2 from reserve. So it's very low mana cost for a really powerful character that will have sizable stats and draw you a card. Helping Hand also allows you to keep playing that Mage-Dancer as it removes fleeting. I'm hopeful that this knocks a Faunus down a peg, but a Faunus is still very powerful. We'll have to see how the metagame shakes out. Moving on to some unique erratas here. So Foundry Armorer. All of the Foundry Armorer uniques have been unsuspended with some erratums, so let's take a look. The erratas only affect Foundry Armorers that had this line of text, or this second one, which we'll get to in just a second. So this first one says, when a character you control gains 1 or more boosts, create a Brass Bug 2/2/2 robot token in target expedition. The new version of this card will say, when a non-token character you control gains 1 or more boosts, create a Brass Bug 2/2/2 robot token in my expedition. So this was changed because one of the most powerful things you can do with a Foundry Armor was pair it with a new card from Trial by Frost, Arcolano Milk. This milk says, when a character joins, it gains a boost and gains fleeting. And so with this Foundry Armor and this Arcolano Milk, you could make infinite brass bugs with boosts, because when a character joins, it would gain a boost, which the Foundry Armor would then make a brass bug, which gains a boost, and so on and so forth. And so now, this checks for non-token characters, your brass bugs won't create more brass bugs, and it also only allows you to make brass bugs in the expedition that the Foundry Armorer is in, and not in both expeditions. Now, this second case is a little bit less egregious, but this one just says, when I gain one or more boosts, create a brass bug token in the target expedition. That was the before, and now after, you can only make them in my expedition. This is a sizable nerf because it's less flexible. Overall, glad to see these erratas happen. I'm excited to have the Foundry Armor and my unique binder tradable again. Moving on. Next errata is Garrick from Bravos and Lyra. So the first instance that was errated was, when a character you control gains one or more boosts, you may have target character gain fleeting. And if you're not familiar, Garrick by default, or most uniques, come with the line of text that says, if I would gain fleeting, I gain a boost instead. With this first line, when a character you control gains one or more boosts, you may have target character gain fleeting, it could go infinite. You could have it target itself with its own effect. When a character you control gains a boost, you may have target character gain fleeting. You could have it gain a boost, and then target it with fleeting, and then have it gain a boost, and then target it with fleeting, and then so on and so forth. The new line of text is, when a character you control gains one or more boost, you may have target character other than me gain fleeting. I think this makes sense. Most other Bravos cards are templated this way. This is an easy errata in my opinion. The second instance, if we learned anything from the first one, is probably less egregious, but when I gain one or more boost, you may have target character gain fleeting. Oh, I see the difference. So this one is when a character you control gains one or more boost, when I gain one or more boost. So a slightly worse version of this, but still a good change. This is just the same thing, other than me gain fleeting. So the now currently suspended cards are Moonlight Jellyfish, Baba Yaga, and Helping Hand. I'm glad to see the two top decks get addressed. Overall, I think these are great changes. I'm happy to see Sigismar try and get knocked down a peg, along with Faunus. And although it's not quite suspended, they did make Small Step Giant Leap a lot worse, which you can see in this next watch list section. They've removed Small Step Giant Leap from the watch list, given that it was heavily nerfed now that there's a check victory step. I am a big fan of them keeping the Mage-Dancer and Yzmir on the watch list. That card is extremely powerful in a Faunus. I'm interested to see how much that dynamic changes now that Helping Hand is gone. As for players' compensation, we're still working on the compensation system, and we'll provide updates as soon as possible. Any solution we come with will be retroactive. I am interested to see what our options will be with player compensation, and let me know what you think about this mid-season patch in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.